Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to cut through some of that daily noise. We're taking a bunch of fresh headlines and, well, digging at the important stuff, the knowledge, the insights. Our mission, really, is to help you get properly informed, fast, by showing you the currents kind of shaping our world. So, to set the stage for this deep dive, let's just hear a quick bit from our source material today. You're listening to Swift News, your daily news briefing in just 10 minutes. This is episode 67, and it's July 9, 2025. Let's get into today's stories. And yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. Unpack those headlines. You know, the world often feels so fragmented. Where are the real connections? Where's the resilience showing up? Let's explore how these global events, high diplomacy right down to local ingenuity, how they're actually woven together. Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with some big global geopolitical and economic shifts.
Right. And what's really insightful here, I think, is the diplomatic tightrope walk we're seeing. The U.S. resuming limited weapons shipments to Ukraine. That's after a Pentagon pause. It's not like an all-out escalation. It feels very carefully calibrated.
A signal, but a cautious one.
Exactly. On one hand, it's clear backing for Ukraine, keeping up the pressure. But that word limited and coming after a pause, well, it suggests deliberate restraint, doesn't it? Maybe trying not to provoke too much or, keeping doors open for de-escalation down the line. It's a complex balance, strength versus managing tensions.
And while that's happening in Washington, we saw some pretty significant diplomatic moves elsewhere. PM Modi wrapping up the BRICS summit in Rio. He apparently secured India's leadership for 2026. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and also got some big trade deals done with Brazil and South Africa. So this is more than just handshakes, right?
Oh, absolutely not. If you connect this to the bigger picture, these summits, they're becoming really critical engines for subtly reshaping global power. Modi getting the 2026 leadership, that's not just taking a turn. It signals India's growing confidence and maybe a strategy to shape where that bloc goes, perhaps even, balancing China's influence within BRICS itself.
Interesting.
And these trade deals, they boost economic ties between these nations, creating new global trade axes. It kind of decentralizes economic leverage away from, say, the traditional Western powers.
Yeah.
It's quiet, but it's significant.
Okay. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, some cautious progress reported on the Gaza ceasefire talks. Negotiations extended in Qatar between Israel and Hamas, and importantly, aid got delivered to 400,000 residents.
Yeah, the aid delivery is huge, addresses immediate suffering right now. But the talks being extended, even if it's slow going, it says something. It shows a commitment, however difficult, to finding some kind of resolution.
But does the extension mean they're stuck, or just that it's incredibly complex?
That's the real question, isn't it? It could be either, or both. These situations, every detail is fought over, and even aid, its distribution, can get tangled in the talks themselves. So these dialogues, they're about more than just stopping the fighting. They're trying to lay groundwork for some, fragile stability in the region.
Right. Now, shifting focus a bit, internal politics. We heard about Rahul Gandhi protesting in Patna over Bihar's voter roll changes, claiming voter suppression. And then in South Korea, former President Yoon detained over a corruption probe that's causing more political unrest there. So internal struggles seem quite intense in different places.
Yeah, and these domestic events, while they seem local, often tap into much bigger themes. Governance, public trust, Gandhi's protest. It highlights ongoing worries about electoral integrity, even in big democracies.
Right, not just a local issue.
No. It can erode confidence in the whole democratic process, affect national stability, and the South Korea situation. Detaining a former president, it shows challenges with accountability, the rule of law. Stuff like this can trigger dissent, destabilize politics, and even change how other countries see them as a partner. It reminds you stability isn't guaranteed. It's an ongoing process, often messy.
And political stability often links to economic confidence. So let's look at the markets. The update showed some interesting moves. India's Nifty 50 up, led by banking and IT. U.S. markets also surged, NASDAQ hitting new highs, driven by tech, even with those tariff worries hanging around. So what's this all mean for you, whether you invest or just watch the economy?
Well, what's fascinating is how resilient these markets seem, pushed by really specific strong sectors. In India, the Nifty's rise, banking and IT leading. That suggests solid domestic demand, a strong tech services sector. Those are fundamentals.
Things that can power growth even with global uncertainty.
Exactly. And for the U.S., the NASDAQ surge, despite tariff concerns, it shows investor faith in big tech is just incredibly high, almost disconnected from trade friction. These giants make money globally. They're super capital efficient. So maybe they're less vulnerable to specific trade policies.
So the big picture anxiety is there, but tech's power is still driving growth.
Seems like it. The innovation, the market dominance, it's still a major force.
Okay, and speaking of financial markets, we also heard India's regulator, SEBI, is tightening rules for credit rating agencies.
Ah, yeah, that's a critical move. On the surface, it's about transparency, protecting investors, which is good. But it probably hints at a deeper worry, too, about potential systemic risks maybe building up in emerging markets.
Like hidden risks.
Could be. Credit rating agencies are supposed to be the watchdogs, right? So strengthening oversight. It's like a preemptive move against, say, shadow banking problems or too much risk building up quietly, stuff that could cause a domino effect. It's about making sure financial decisions are based on more solid info, safeguarding the broader economy, really.
Now let's talk ripple effects. China's recent floods, mentioned as disrupting $2 billion in trade. That's huge. And that doesn't just stay in China, does it? It hits global supply chains.
Oh, absolutely, if you connect the dots. Severe floods in a major manufacturing hub like China, it just shows how fragile these interconnected global supply chains really are. A $2 billion disruption isn't just a number. It means real delays, production, shipping, everything from electronics parts to consumer goods.
So businesses everywhere feel it.
Definitely. Higher costs for them, scrambling for other suppliers, often more expensive ones, delays getting products out. And for you, the consumer, well, could mean higher prices or just waiting longer for stuff. New phone, car parts, whatever.
Yeah, a stark reminder how one event somewhere else can hit everyone. And it wasn't just geopolitics and economics. The briefing also touched on how fast tech is moving. Some really fascinating breakthroughs, like India's Axiom 4 mission data from Shuhanshu Shukla's ISS experiments, driving space tech progress, and Japan using drones now in, 95% of prefectures, making disaster response way more efficient. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, what's compelling is how you have these two sides of innovation, right? One, pushing the absolute frontiers, like the space tech from Axiom 4. That has long-term implications for materials, medicine, maybe even energy. It's not just exploring space, it's advancing life here.
Right, the far future stuff.
And then, bam, the immediate practical benefit. Japan's drones. That's technology saving lives now. Getting quick views of damage, finding people, delivering supplies. It makes emergency operations much faster, much safer.
Yeah.
So it's tech for the future and tech for right here, right now.
And the tech stories kept coming. A U.S. startup's AI hurricane model improving forecasts just as Tropical Storm Chantal hits the Carolinas. South Korea's AI healthcare platform helping diagnose 1.2 billion patients better. And Japan's 6G trials hitting, 230 gigabits per second? Aiming for 2030 commercial use? That's mind-blowing speed.
It really is. And what stands out is how all these different tech threats, they're weaving together to change how we predict things, how we respond, how we just live. That AI hurricane model, not just academic, it means better warnings, better evacuations, saves lives.
Directly impacts safety.
Absolutely. South Korea's AI healthcare, making diagnostics faster, more accurate for a huge number of people, that's changing healthcare delivery. And Japan's 6G. Okay, faster internet is nice, but it's really about enabling a future world. Instantaneous connection, advanced robotics, fully immersive digital stuff we can barely picture yet.
So this tech is getting deeply embedded in critical systems and our own well-being. Okay, let's shift now to some more human-centric stories. Societal resilience, but also facing huge challenges. The tragic Texas floods were mentioned. 115 lives lost, 20 missing. And that Gujarat bridge collapse in Vadodara. 12 killed. Sparking big questions about infrastructure safety. It really makes you stop and think.
It does. It makes you think about our vulnerability, both to, more intense natural disasters and just failing infrastructure.
Yeah.
The Texas floods, scale like that, highlights the desperate need for better disaster prep, better warning systems, especially with climate change making things more extreme.
And the bridge.
The bridge collapse. Tragically, it just hammers home how vital it is to not just build stuff, but to maintain it, keep it safe. These aren't just numbers. They're painful reminders. We need resilient communities, proactive government. We have to invest in our environment and our basic physical structures.
Yeah. But amidst those really tough stories, there were also some incredibly positive environmental efforts highlighted. Canada's solar farms powering 3.2 million homes, cutting emissions significantly. And Brazil's Amazon reforestation hitting 16 million trees planted in 2025. These feel like tangible progress. Gives you some hope.
Well, what's really encouraging is the direct measurable impact. You can see it. Canada's solar farms, that's a powerful example of renewables scaling up, meeting serious energy needs and cutting carbon. It shows large-scale energy transition is
This
possible.
clear win.
And Brazil planting 16 million trees in the Amazon. That's actively fighting deforestation, restoring biodiversity, shoring up a vital global carbon sink. These aren't just vague goals. They're real actions helping mitigate climate change, helping restore ecosystems. It proves ambitious solutions are actually happening.
And finally, wrapping up, the updates shared some inspiring individual stories. The human stories that really show the impact of ingenuity, of dedication, like the Kenyan engineer. Solar-powered irrigation boosting yields for 15,000 farmers.
Yeah, that Kenyan engineer's story is such a powerful example of grassroots innovation, isn't it? Think about a small farm relying on unpredictable rain, struggling. Now, solar irrigation. This engineer isn't just boosting crops, they're changing lives. Food security, economic stability for thousands of
It's a
families.
huge ripple effect.
Huge. It's a great counter-narrative, shows solutions are being built every day by dedicated people on the ground.
Or the U.S. scientist whose flood-resistant infrastructure is now helping 11,000 Texas residents. A real shield against those disasters we talked about.
But scientists' work is resilience by design. In a flood-hit area, just rebuilding the old way isn't enough. Developing flood-resistant infrastructure that directly protects homes, protects lives, turns a weakness into a strength.
Applied knowledge making a difference.
Exactly. And it's often innovation born from direct need, personal commitment, using expertise to make a real, tangible difference for thousands of people right there in the community.
Wow. What an incredible deep dive today. We've really covered a lot of ground, from that complex dance of global diplomacy, economic shifts, through the tech breakthroughs changing our lives and landing on these powerful stories of resilience, human ingenuity. Our goal, as always, is just to help you get informed quickly, cut through the noise, get to the core insights, understand what's going on.
And maybe, if we connect it all, think about how understanding these connections, how global events link together, empowers us, empowers you to engage more effectively, maybe, with your own community, with the world, from decisions in Washington or Beijing to a teacher's program in the Amazon or a doctor's clinic in Madhya Pradesh. Everything we talked about shows how local actions can echo globally and global trends hit local lives. So the question is, what will you do with that understanding?
Great final thought.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Stay curious, everyone. Keep exploring. And we'll be back soon with another deep dive into the stories that matter.